Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third DigiEduHack 2025 webinar. It's also our last webinar for the spring season, titled Next Gen Online Assessment Methods, Insights from DigiEduHack. I'm Slavko Rakic, your host for today, and I'm really pleased to have all of you with us. In this session, we will explore how online and AI-powered assessments are transforming the way we evaluate student learning across Europe. From policy shifts to practical tools and self-evaluation models, our speakers will offer a multi-perspective view on what's emerging and what still needs to work in the future. Joining us today are four fantastic speakers. Daniela Stjepanovic from the Ministry of Education from Serbia. Welcome, Daniela.
Hello.
Susana Martins Marques from Nova University, Lisbon from Portugal. Welcome, Susana.
Hello, good afternoon.
Gabriela Maria Nagy from Obuta University from Hungary. Welcome, Gabriela. And Sebastian Schwabe from the Blink Institute from Germany. Welcome, Sebastian.
Hi there.
Okay, we are ready and we can start with our first part of discussion. So let's start our discussion today by focusing on how policy is shaping online assessment practice across Europe. Before we dive into the questions, we have two ladies with us, Daniela and Susana, and I would like to kindly invite both of you to briefly introduce yourself, your roles, and how you are related to digital education. Maybe we can start with you, Daniela. Please, could you shortly introduce yourself?
Thank you. I work in the Ministry of Education and I'm responsible for development of digital education in pre-university education. So mainly my task is to help schools and help teachers develop their digital capacities. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Susana?
Thank you, Slavko. Thank you for having me here. My name is Susana Martins Marques. I work at Nova Information Management School at Nova University. I'm a manager for European projects, especially related to Erasmus Plus projects, where we train students and professionals in data-related topics like AI, data analytics, geodata analysis, and so on. And I'm really looking forward for this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Susanna, and great to have both of you with us today. Daniela, we can start with you. From your perspective, how is the concept of online assessment competence reflecting digital educational policy? Because you are dealing with these policies on the national level in Serbia, but also as the reviewer for different EU initiatives. Can you please share your insights from this?
Yes, an online assessment, the ability of teachers to conduct online assessment is important aspect of their digital competence. So for us, it is important to consider assessment within the broader context of online and blended learning. Therefore, from the policy perspective, the availability of the up-to-date and high-quality competence framework for teachers is essential, and I will explain why. So also in the previous webinar, your colleagues and our colleagues mentioned DigComp and the DigComp Edu, both frameworks. We also are expecting the DigComp 3.0 to be published at the end of 2025. But these two frameworks, they have different audiences. While DigComp focuses on digital competencies of all citizens, for us, in education sector, in formal education, DigComp Edu is of utmost importance. And why? Because this framework sits at the top of digital competence ecosystem, because this framework guides pre-service teacher training. So it's inspiring curricula for all universities that train teachers. But also this framework is used by teacher training providers who are responsible for teacher professional development. But on the other hand, this tool has more ways of being used. this is also used for self-assessment tool, such as European Commission Selfie for Teachers, that already reached 200,000 users. And also it serves as an analytical tool for evaluating programs at the national, or it could be used at the European level, but how we use it on a national level to see where are the gaps in trainings. And then we can discuss this. For example, there is a DigComp Edu that is at the European level developed, and then also we have our national, already third version of the digital competence framework for teachers. And within the both frameworks, area number 4, we are coming to our main topic. Area number 4 is describing assessment. So in both of the frameworks, we have sub-competencies. I will not list them now, but for example, what is interesting that European DigiComp Edu has 6 levels and our has 3 levels of competencies. This means that not all teachers have the same level of digital competencies, and not all teachers are able to conduct online assessment of equal quality. Therefore, we offer them different trainings and different opportunities to upgrade their knowledge and skills. And for example, in our framework, we expect the teachers at the basic level know how to use e-gradebook and how to use basic digital tools. Already at the intermediate level, we expect them to be able to select tools based on pedagogical aims and ethical considerations. But on the advanced level, we expect them to know how to apply sophisticated assessment and to design sophisticated assessment environment, and that use, for example, data and learning analytics. And also from advanced practitioners, we expect to use e-portfolios to enable students to document their progress. So that would be.
Thank you, Daniela, for this detailed approach, and to explain us the difference, and also to explain how actually we employ these European standards on the national levels, on the different, and especially from this teacher's perspective. And now I also, and thank you for mentioning previous webinars, because it's important to have some continuous progress. And according to this, in the first webinar, we deal with the AI. And Susanna, from your perspective, how do you see the role of the AI and adaptive systems in making assessments not only more effective, but also fairer for all students?
In my perspective, I think AI can play a very important role, because it will facilitate the work of educators in different levels. For example, if you have students with learning difficulties, I think personalized assessment can help them create engagement with the teaching. For example, you have a learning management system, and the students answer quizzes, answer small tests that the educator places there, and the educator with the AI can immediately know how that student is progressing in their learning. So I think AI will facilitate educators' job by having immediate feedback how the students are going. Also, the students themselves are going to have immediate feedback of how they are answering the questions, because if AI is implemented and adapted systems are implemented in the learning, when they answer, for example, a quiz or something like that, it's a wrong question, it's a wrong answer. Why? The AI will redirect the student for the right answer or the right part of the materials they need to study to get it right. So it's not a static grading, to avoid that one size fits all style of test, because we all know that in schools we have an exam, one test that everyone has to answer, but we have online assessments throughout the semester, throughout the the studying path, students will eventually, step by step, progress their learning at their own pace, not just to keep up with the pace of everyone. So I think it's important to AI in this sense, because AI can adapt itself to the students. That's my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And also we need to be the little bit careful with all of these AI tools in this ethical way.
Exactly. Yeah, it all depends in the way that AI systems are implemented, designed, the transparency. If the students know what they are, the educators are doing in the learning management systems or other systems, if the data ethics are there, and if it's regulated by EU standards, for example.
Yeah, thank you, Susanna, for clarification. I think maybe the future of these assessment methods are in the hybrid intelligent assessment methods. Then
Exactly.
we'll combine AI tools alongside with the teachers, and then we can give effective and also in-depth feedback to all our students. Okay, now we can back to Daniela. And when we compare these online classroom assessments with international frameworks, because you're expert in these policies, and also like the PISA and ISCLs, what are major design and implementation differences?
So classroom-based online assessment and the large-scale international assessment differ considerably, and from policy perspective, both are important. For example, online classroom assessment and the international assessment really differ in purpose, scale, timing, and use. And while classroom assessment are typically frequent, flexible, they are context-based in the school, and they have formative and summative purpose. We really also pay attention to the large international assessments that are periodic, that are conducted every 3 to 5 years, and also allow for some comparative data across countries and across national and international levels. And also, our job is rather complex because we have to work on a parallel track, because we need to develop rule books, trainings, guidelines, and framework that will develop online assessment methods, but also we have to analyze these international assessment results to adapt and improve our policy. And for digital education, key assessment instrument is ICILS, International Computer and Information Literacy Study, that is also conducted online, that is computer-based. And this study was launched in 2013, and we get data on how students interact with technology, how they develop essential digital skills, how they also are able to think critically, to solve problems, and how they communicate online, and what are their knowledge and capacities regarding safety and ethical use of digital technologies. So for us, both approaches are equally important. And we are looking forward to to use this, because Serbia has participated in ICILS for the first time last year, and these results also are related to EU digital targets. So for us, it's very important to prepare our system to improve for the next assessment phase.
Thank you, Daniela. And what I assume also from your answer is that maybe these international frameworks and tests could be also better for our students and teachers to better understand the difference within all of us and to use the best practice which actually works for different educational systems. And for example, we know that Estonia is first on the PISA. We mentioned it in the previous webinars, and we can use some good practices from Estonia to Serbia to actually increase the level of our educational systems on the proper way.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay, and Susanna, from a practical viewpoint, how can assessments be actually involved into daily learning as a support mechanism rather than one-time measurement? Because it's now we are talking about continuous improvement, but not go on the exam, pass the exam, but we need to learn something more.
Yeah, I think online assessment can be viewed as tools, not exactly like assessments, but a tool that educator can use to help the students grow. These type of assessments are very useful to gain engagement and motivation from students. Done in the right way, we can help students learn, but without learn, not study. That's the word that they don't like it, study, but without knowing they are studying, using, for example, gamification. For example, if I'm a teacher for English in as a foreign language, maybe if I put in the learning management system like Moodle, for example, a game of crosswords in English that they have to do to just to pass the time, like they use any other game in their phone or something like that. They are studying without realizing they are studying, and in the end, giving the educator feedback how the progress of the learning is going for English. So I think it's very useful tools, the online assessment, to help educators create motivation and engagement from students. That's my perspective. And there are a lot of tools that we can use, like short quizzes. Okay, that's the most used tool that teachers use. For example, the crosswords that I was saying, that it's very, very nice to use for them to learn. But also, for example, adaptive systems where students can have speech to text to speech activities, because if they have some difficulties while reading and so on, the speech will help them. Peer review, other students can review the colleagues' work. This creates critical thinking and also engagement with other students, and also self-assessment. So they self-assess themselves, so they can also have critical thinking about their own assessment. Also, something that we use a lot in Nova is project-based. We use a lot of project-based activities and grading, because I think we also have exams in the end. Of course, it's like in the law, but during the semester, we use a lot of projects because it's a way to students connect with real-world problems, and also to create this teamwork, because in the end, in the market, when they leave, they are going to have these type of problems. I think even in lower levels of education, this type of projects could help them also socialize and be aware that there are this type of projects that they can do. Also, in terms of learning analytics in dashboards, we already use this in Nova. For example, we have each one, we are going to have, sorry, we are not using yet because it was announced in like 2 weeks ago, a dashboard for each individual. For example, if I'm an educator, I'm going to have a teacher's dashboard related to my work, comparing my work with the rest of the university, or as a teacher have the students' dashboard in general to see how the progress is going in their learning path. Or if I'm a student, compare my work with the rest of the students of the university. I'm a staff member, comparing my work with the rest of the staff. If I'm addressing the KPIs, sorry, mixing Portuguese in the middle, KPIs if I reaching those, and the same goes for the students, teachers, and so on. So I think that in terms of tools, online assessment tools can be very good to help educators and university schools in general to elevate the learning path, the learning, instead of just the grading in the end, if I'm making sense.
Yeah, thank you, Susanna, because you connect this approach which come from policy, which Daniela mentioned, with the practical use cases at the university level, and also this. Thank you for mentioning this gamification, which is really important. And on one of our Horizon Europe project, we actually do the same thing according to the good PISA results from Estonia. We use now in some of our elementary school to test some Estonian language app with our students to see how they can progress in the languages with some solutions which are coming from advanced countries, and also this project-based learning with the real practical things from the practice, but also case studies. It could be really useful for all students, because we need to prepare them for the market tomorrow, not only to finish according to learning, but they need we will discuss, I think, with Sebastian according to the skills, attitudes, and knowledge level in the next part. But we would like also to now include our attendees. You are very welcome to ask any questions in the Q&A section. But now I will start the pool one with you to check your opinion according to this topic. And the question for you is actually which competencies is the hardest to access online? And you have the options of critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and digital literacy. You are welcome to answer, and we will share the results with you. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we are done. And I think you can see the results that actually we have this situation that critical thinking is maybe the hardest to access online. I fully agree with this, because in the future maybe we need to give much more attention to critical thinking and problem solving, especially when we combine AI tools and to use it in the proper way. Also creativity with 38%, then communication. But what is interesting is, Susanna, what you mentioned, these digital things and digital literacy is maybe the easiest to be assessed online. And thank you both for this discussion in the first part to Susanna and Daniela. And now we can start with our second segments. So we turn all our attention to tools, prototypes, and innovative models that are pushing the boundaries of digital assessment. And joining us now are two colleagues, which we mentioned in the introduction, Sebastian from Germany and Gabriela from Hungary. Thank you both to be with us. And we would like to hear from your perspective to bring hands-on experience with EU-funded project, because both of you are very well involved in the projects which are funded by European Commission, and also according to the self-assessment frameworks. Before we start with our discussion, Gabriela, could you please shortly introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriela Nagy, working with project for 25 years, mainly with Erasmus Horizon, NASA, ESA, and several other international funded projects. And I nowadays manage the international portfolio of a university in Hungary. So yeah, and I used to teach for several years. So I'm very much involved to this problem area.
Thank you, Gabriela. Sebastian, please could you introduce yourself shortly?
Yeah, I will try to do it shortly. So my name is Sebastian Schwebe, working for Blink over the last almost decade now. We're actually focusing on a lot of blended learning concept approaches, whatever you would like to call them, in the European field. So it doesn't matter if it's Erasmus Plus or if it's a Horizon or Interact. This is somehow our playground, and we spend a lot of time. So if I'm talking to colleagues, we spent almost 20 years in how blended learning and therefore assessment is one of the major things we like to deal with.
Thank you, Sebastian. it's nice to have both of you there because I worked on different projects with both of you, and I'm excited to hear the insights from you. Gabriela, we will start with you. As you have been involved in several EU-funded projects, could you tell us how these projects have supported the development of new student-centered digital assessments models at your university in Hungary?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Just my
Yes, we can
project is
hear
switched
you.
off. Excellent. So, when first the EU code on this kind of problem areas, potentially they aimed to solve the digital literacy assessment and improvement. But nowadays, this whole area has changed already. So as you just shown in the first poll, digital literacy is the smallest problem right now. We are much rather facing how these assessment methods become pivotal in student-centered and innovative learning approaches that is absolutely a different level of the whole problem area and the solutions. So we may say nowadays EU-funded projects are not just providing a fund, but they are also drivers of the development and even so answering some needs, especially what is related the 5.1 industrial needs, what we are just facing and what is really requiring very different skills and knowledge from everyday people, not just youth, not just schools, not just teachers, but unfortunately everyone. So because of this, all the EU projects provided portfolio has changed over time. In the beginning, there were mainly just those kind of solutions which are provided a little bit personalized and adaptive learning sort of solutions, such as Duolingo. We know all of this solution, which is providing individual student needs, and it's quite adaptive in the first level way. But of course, it's providing another path which was really used by many other solutions afterwards, such as the game-based and simulation assessments, such as the Lego or Minecraft embedding versions, where actually the student or who is using not really aware that they are assessed. They are actually interviewed and checked and followed, but they are much more smoothly having this new skills, especially soft skills, which are nowadays seems to be even probably more important for the development path than the hard skills. And afterwards, we provided learning analytics and dashboards. And through these solutions, we provided even further self-assessment profile for each student. And we provided a new learning behavior for the students. Of course, these sort of solutions are a little bit questioning if a teacher, a tutor, a university is needed behind or not. But of course, this is a very new way after all. But for teachers, this kind of assessments providing a potential to identify at-risk students, and they can act in an early stage, which is very important for schools. But we, project rarely take care nowadays yet. This kind of perspectives, which I think is quite the next step for this kind of development. Then we provided peer-to-peer and collaborative assessments, such as CoLearn or GoLab, which are really provided a digital platform where students not just talk to each other, but they were forced to really collaborate and provide common solutions. So it really gives the potential to team working, the really essential of digital literacy and communication become the focus. And not just in a soft way, but really focused, and made the students' agency a new potential, which is a really different level than whatever were experienced in school. And of course, at the end, there are e-portfolios and micro-credentials, which are really giving the universities and the schools the optimal skill to acquisition over time, and informal and non-formal learning become really centered. And yeah, these are not only for schools, but much rather for employability of the actual learner, which is also a really different level nowadays. So as you can see, most of these tools are aiming personalization, real world relevance, a high level engagement, than a direct and not any longer subjective reflection and feedbacking system, which is much rather clear and not depending on the actual tutor who is feedbacking, and giving a very high level autonomy for the learner, and quite an inclusive feeling of how the process is going on. So actually, altogether, these kind of solutions over the EU projects really developed each other, and surprisingly, they very well embed at the end into the policy level. So actually, it's a very good reflecting dynamism between the EU policy and the project's development. But of course, well, we are living in EU, so we are very proud of it, but we have to admit this is not only a European progress and development stage, but really a worldwide interest. And yes, we are very good in it, but not the only ones.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriela, and thank you for mentioning these soft skills, because it's really important to be aware that we are not only in the technical skills, especially because digitalization increases rapidly, and now we need to find some new solutions how we actually can assess the students. And Sebastian, let's talk about self-assessments. Why this approach gaining attention, especially in higher education?
Well, before directly going to this point, I would just like to highlight where we are. So we are in a digital learning environment. This is something that changed. So we had different situations before, and Gabriela just mentioned it directly on the point. The needs changed of learners. So suddenly we have, instead of a teacher-centered or trainer-centered approach, we are further and further developing an individual approach in how people collect or feed in the way they are learning. And if we're talking about that, the way we're assessing it also need to adjust or adapt or be an add-on. And there we have self-reflection and self-assessment in the end. So if whatever you would call the target group in the end, the one who's learning, if you're aware where you're coming from, you need to start from self-assessment. This is just a typical starting point in where you, first of all, understand what you learned. You bring it in context. You bring it into your own reality. And this is something that is providing a real good access for further ongoing learning. So by just having this focus on, me again, we also need to support that this self-assessment is come a critical point in where we enter learning. And it also helps learners in the end to find themselves in a world of new opportunities. And I guess this is one of the crucial things that we can see within our digital learning environment. Providing tons of ways of observing learning can lead to something individual. And having a start, well, self-assessment will be a key point in there.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. And let's try to connect. You are truly right that we are living in the digital environment, but we all know that there are some issues according to digital environment that some people didn't accept these digital tools. And according from the university operations standpoint, Gabriela, what do you think as the biggest challenge in scaling online assessment methods? It's infrastructure, mindset of people, or something else? Because we are dealing with these things at the university level.
Well, I may say all of these and even further, and all of these connected to each other. So if we just consider the infrastructural limitations, of course, in each countries and each institutions, it's a little bit differentiations, but it's not the main point. Actually, the scale, when we are working with thousands of learners, and they are doing the same test or same class in the same time, and collaborating, probably thousands of them in the same actual platform. This requires a very different background than ever before. I have to say, most of the European universities are not really ready for this technical level. This is a very huge problem. Then, of course, from the recipient side, from the student side, if they can provide the appropriate bandwidth for all of these students and become remotely and internationally appropriate over time and space, and everything fits together, we know technicalities never works. And of course, first of all, we really don't have those kind of proctoring tools which are really providing an appropriate surface where these actual assessments, when we are entering exams at the end, can be properly run. And of course, the integration and interoperability is a huge problem. How, for example, this assessment tools fits to the whole system of the university, not just technically, but theoretically, and providing a whole structure seemingly sound and acceptable. And of course, the huge fragmentation of all our teaching and learning platforms are giving a huge problem for computing, it's really just computing techniques. That how can we bring all these assessment tools and grading softwares and analytical dashboard to one platform and bring all the results into one e-portfolio system. So this is a very huge gap. And of course, over this, we are always having a challenge, data security and privacy. And this is also not solved, which is just the basics. And of course, if we are looking at the cultural problems, it's not just the students' cultural and acceptance problem, but of course this is as well, but also the teachers and all the pedagogical solutions and methods shift to a very different sort of solution is a huge problem. But of course, institutionally, we can't really handle easily that all the faculty autonomy is really questioned on some point, and how they are resisting to change after a certain point when really a bigger system is jumping into their privacy. And of course, this came up together with democratic solutions. If it's appropriate for a democratic solution, for a independent institutional site, well, huge questions. And though we may say they are easy to solve, not really, because this needs a real co-creational sort of policy solution for all institutional level. And of course, Well, this concludes to the institutional and national problems. How can we really find the common solution and strategies and policies for all our institutions, which is appropriate for everyone and acceptable, and this is also acceptable for the international community and and actually our university system, which is providing a marketable and a very expensive solution for students to have a career path, is a long-term solution and not just a come up short-term something which is not really quality assured. So I think these are the main problems, and on some levels they all are interconnected with each other.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of, I don't want to say problems, but a lot of challenges which are facing now at the university level, and definitely we need some re-engineering of our of all of our processes, how we're doing to be more attractive for the young generation, because we have very much differences and gaps between maybe some traditional way of learning and with these digital natives, the young who will be the next students. And according to this, we need to find some solutions, like real solutions from the informal assessments we use. And Sebastian, as I know, you had worked on the level 5 certificate model developed by the Blink. And could you walk us through how it works and what makes it unique as a self-evaluation space to see some real use cases which are not in the formal structure, but which is working very well?
Yeah, well, it's quite hard to now fill in the gap we just having here, but how to make it simple, what I normally explain by splitting up a competence in 3 dimensions. So this is something that is already familiar for most of the people. Well, this is how the Entrecom work. It's most of the competence settings are designed in 3 dimensions. But we made it a little bit easier. So as you already kindly mentioned it, level 5. So we're talking about 5 level. Create a kind of reference system in where you set yourself. And to make it more clear, so if you have a competence, well, we just have the thing regarding in digital skills. Well, skill is now digital competence. Are you competent in the world of digital environment? Then we need to split up this competence in a way that we actually can work with it. It will be, parts of it will be related to knowledge. You need to have a certain knowledge in the end to establish your learning. But this knowledge will never talk about what you really can do because it's also related to hands-on. If you read a lot of stuff, it's great, but you also need to be showing that you can do that. And this is where the skills are interfering. And they're in the end running hand in hand with knowledge. But on top of that, and I think this is quite important nowadays, is also the motivation. So if we would like to have learners that are actually willing to learn something new, they also need to be driven by motivation. And this, all 3 elements are combined in the level 5 approach or level 5 certificate. So if we're talking about the different details, this all can be nicely assessed by if you read, well, in the end, describe what you learn, but you're also showing what you learn. But if it makes it more appealing, if you're also bringing your personal motivation into it, and this is a unique selling point. So it can become an entry point where learning might struggle in the end. So we would like to have individual learning, but some people decided, well, digital learning is something that they like to avoid. Why? So open up this motivational pathway there, showing what is possible, what is not possible. And this is a really nice setting where level 5 can create a two-path entry point. Because on one side, it helps those ones who are designing learning environments. Because if you're developing a task that is related in a specific field, like a motivational field, you do a kind of role play, you do well, you do a video, whatever you would like, but it's triggering in the first place the motivation of the learner. This specific activity have a different entry point than doing an exam, because then we are already on a different level regarding knowledge. And level 5 is providing therefore these two options. On one side, teachers, trainers, whoever are designing learning opportunities can create activities placed in the reference system just to elaborate what learning means. While on the other side, if I'm a learner, and I'm now making the step back to self-assessment, I can put myself into this framework by saying, okay, I'm creating here a video. I have a motivation to do that, but I would like to show what I know, but I also showing within the video what skills I actually learned. So this is a two-way approach, which is not something new, but it's something that perfectly fits in the digital world.
Thank you, Sebastian, especially because our participants in DigiEduHack on the November, they need to provide some new solutions, and maybe you can inspire them to create some new assessments, online methods. And also you mentioned one important thing, like to provide certificates. And many of our attendees ask us for providing certificates for the participation in the DigiEduHack webinars. But we will send the confirmation for everyone who participate in our webinars. Like this is a first time info and news for all of them. And also we would like to hear something from our attendees. And I will now launch the second pool. And on the second pool, you have this question: what type of digital assessment tools have you or your institution used? We would like to see which of these you used: learning management systems as Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, or others, AI-based feedback tools, peer self-assessments platforms, learning analytics dashboard, or none of these. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we are ready to share the results. And as we can maybe expect that learning management system, because it's maybe the most traditional way at the university, 90% of our attendees use it. And this is followed by learning analytics dashboard. But also the good thing is that we have this self-assessment platform and also AI-based in the 30% of the institution from where are coming our attendees. And the perfect thing is that none is 0%, that we have somehow to assess our students, teachers, or policymakers. And as we are now coming in the last part, I will invite Daniela and Susanna to join us. I hope that you're still with us. Yeah, we are ready. As we have the last 10 minutes, I would like to hear from all of you, to wrap up with some forward-looking reflection for each of you. As you are now fresh, we can start with Daniela and Susanna, and then we continue with Gabriela and Sebastian. Daniela, first question is for you. How can, because you mentioned policymakers, how can policymakers ensure that our next generation of assessment strategy remains inclusive and equability, especially as technology advances?
Yeah, thank you for this question, because even if we want to look at the future, we should really be careful and use what was the best from the past. So we now mentioned self-assessment, peer assessment, but I will also say there is a summative assessment and formative assessment. So, for example, we promote online formative assessment because there is a big potential within the formative assessment to improve quality learning, quality of teaching and learning. So what we do, we really run our digital transformation based on a good pedagogy. And what we developed in order to be more inclusive, we developed some 10 principles that we promote, which is use of universal design for learning. We advise teachers to use flexible assessment methods to allow students to demonstrate their understanding in the multiple ways. So written, oral, video, or other formats that accommodate diverse learning styles. Also, we advise teachers to choose technology platforms that comply with accessibility standards like screen reader compatibility, captioning, adjusting font size. Also, what is really nice to see in this quiz that this questionnaire that you made, that many use Moodle and learning management systems, which we also strongly promote for our schools to use. But again, to repeat, the biggest potential we see in online formative assessment of students, and there are some good pedagogy behind formative assessment that we should not forget. That is a good quality feedback and a timely and frequent feedback from a trusted source that can really improve assessment and teaching and learning overall. And also, we advise teachers to make criteria and assessment results visible and easily accessible to students. And also, in the broader sense, we advise teachers to respect individual student differences, so socioeconomic status, access to digital devices, additional educational needs, and learning difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela, and thank you especially because you mentioned these formative assessments, which we forgot to mention before through our discussion. Susanna, if you had the power to implement one major reform, because we need some reforms in online assessments tomorrow, what would it be?
That's a very difficult question, because if I have the power, I would go to the foundation of learning, that is the educator. One thing that I would do is probably do a mandatory training and support of educators so they can learn how to use online assessments, design their own assessments, how to use learning analytics, how to create a pedagogy around digital education. Also with all supported with EU standards and data ethics, and how to be fair and effective for all the learners. So if we take the educators, they are the basis of everything. If they are competent, they trained with these tools, with these methodologies, with this assessment, with everything that we've been talking, because like Gabriela said, universities are not prepared for this, and other levels of education are not prepared for this. So if we make it mandatory for them to train in this, probably we could have more of digital education in all levels of education, if it makes sense, but I don't have the power, unfortunately. So yeah.
Thank you for your answer. And now we can come back to Gabriela, because you also mentioned her, and she also mentioned a lot of challenges. But from the perspective of university leadership, what's the most pressing challenge? If you need to mention the one, you mentioned many, but what is the most pressing challenges to expanding digital assessments adoption?
Well, you see, all of them are really questioning if this can be bring about or not. But from the student's perspective, the main problem of the institution, that how to deal with cheating and plagiarism, just because, you know, this at the end, this is a question if what we are providing, a certificate or a diploma, is acceptable or not. So how to deal with this very great essential problem. And yeah, this is the main question for the institution: credibility. How such a degree, what was provided based on such assessments, can be accepted by the employers. So yes, I think these are the main problems, that if the world is believing this new system and accepting it or not, and how actually this will be reflected within the industry, within the sectors, and what will be the actual acceptance level of such solutions, which is not decided yet.
Thank you, Gabriela. It's
Thank you.
challenging how to actually manage and to make real this. And finally, Sebastian, what's your message to educators who are still hesitant to explore self-directed, non-traditional forms of assessments?
Well, let me split my answer. First of all, I have to apologize for all the educators out there who are getting more and more pressure from us and from others to adapt into this new world of changing environment of learning. This is something that most of you never learned at the university or during your studies whatsoever. This is a huge challenge, and of course there's always a but, and comes with an opportunity, with a challenge, of course, but an opportunity. Learning is something that need to adapt every day, and by including more ideas into it, call it digital or whatever, you as a facilitator of education need to be able to adapt, because otherwise learning will die at some stage, because the world is changing around us, with us. The knowledge is growing and growing. So this is a huge opportunity, and as educator, you can take that one.
Thank you, Sebastian. I think it wasn't to be the pressure. Actually, we mentioned a lot of challenges which need to be solved. And according to this DigiEduHack, maybe we provide a lot of challenges for our students and educators to create some new cool solutions. And before we conclude, I really would like to extend a great thank you to all of you, our four distinguished speakers, Daniela, Susanna, Gabriela, and Sebastian, for sharing their time, expertise, and insights today. Your contribution not only helped us better to understand the future of online assessments, but you also offered practical inspiration for students. As you mentioned, not maybe the pressure and problems, but maybe inspiration for students, educators, institutions, and policymakers across the whole Europe. It's a privilege to have you as the part of the DigiEduHack community and to share your insights with us. But also thank you to everyone who joined us today, this like last spring days, but we are coming with the summer and contribute to this important conversation on the future of online assessments. The recording of today's webinar, along with additional materials, will be soon available on the DigiEduHack website. As we head into the summer, I wish you a restful and inspiring break. Take the time to relax and recharge, but don't forget to register for our upcoming session this autumn, where we'll continue exploring key topics in digital education. Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and enjoy your summer. Thank you all, and see you on the autumn. Bye-bye.